Matterpod. Oregon.
So for the character overview, I am a Redguard on the Stamsorc. I personally think Redguard is the best race because it gives you the best sustain. It gives you extra stamina, stamina recovery, and it returns stamina every 5 seconds from melee attacks, which is really nice. You can make other classes work, of course, other races work. If you maybe put some points to health, you can go with recovery food on the orc. It's also nice, it can also work. However, I personally prefer to go Redguard and do a heavy attack here and there. It is still, for me, like, gave me still like the best DPS overall. We use the Lovermonder Stone, we have max health, max stamina food, and we have all points into stamina. That's it for the character overview. Let's have a look at gear. So we basically play the same setup on all stem classes. What a surprise. We use Reliquin, perfect version if you have it. The difference between perfect and non-perfect is that the 5-piece bonus, like you have a second one on the perfect version, which gives you an additional 1096 stamina. Then we get weapon crit 2 times, minor slayer, and then the harmful wind stacks. Those used to count as melee damage, and that was like, that gave you the chance to combine it with a Ravager. We did that last patch, combined it with Ravager, used recovery food, and we had some pretty good uptimes. However, harmful winds counting as melee damage was a bug which got fixed. Now we cannot combine it with Ravager anymore because the uptimes are most of the times really low. If you get a powers where they are high, you're probably lucky, because in most situations I end up with an uptime of around like 30-40%, and they used to be like 65 to 70% the last 2 patches, and it was really good. So no Ravager anymore, and also because it doesn't count as melee damage anymore, no silly monster set. We now use Veladreth. It gives us weapon damage, and the disease spores we can replace it with Storm Fist. Sustain is a little bit hard for Stamsorcs. That's why Storm Fist is a really good alternative. It gives us stamina recovery, and for pure single target, Storm Fist will probably be a little bit stronger, like from the damage from the monster set itself, depending on the fight. Like if you have to break free or block a lot, Storm Fist might be the better option, because you will have less issues with sustain and you need to do less heavy attacks. In most situations, however, Veladreth will outperform, especially on boss fights where they have huge hitboxes. So those are the 2 monster sets that I usually recommend. Obviously Slimecraw if you do not get Combat Prayer for the Minor Berserk buff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we were 7 medium, all divines. And the second 5-piece set is Advanced Yukita or Berserking Warrior. So we get weapon crit, weapon damage, weapon crit, and we get a lot of weapon crit on the 5-piece bonus. It's a really good set. You can replace it, of course, with the automaton set. I used to do that in prior patches. It's also really strong, but it was around on the same level as Advanced Yukita. The good thing about Stamsorc is you have only physical damage, except for your poison injection, unless you use the Atro. I'm not sure, like I think automaton doesn't buff the Atro, like it shouldn't buff the Atro. That's why when I go with Ballista, I try to use my automaton set. I should have dagger somewhere, but for most people, they're not really lucky when like they try to farm the automaton daggers. That's why just go with Yukita. It's a bit easier to farm because it's a trial. You have up to 11 other people that can trade with you or sell you the daggers. But yeah, that's the other 5-piece set that we use. I have 1 Bloodthirsty with weapon damage and then 2 infused with weapon damage. The reason for that is pretty simple. Usually because they're the strongest single target class, like single target damage class, Stamina Nightblade, they make the execute really short. So the time of like the time from 25% boss HP to 0 is short if you have a lot of Nightblades. If I use infused, I will reduce the time from 10 to 25% HP. So I help my Nightblade buddies by using 2 infused and 1 Bloodthirsty. So execute gets longer, then DPS of the Nightblades pick up, but also the fight time from 100 to 25% gets shorter because I myself don't use Bloodthirsty. So they get into execute sooner. That will result in more DPS for all the Nightblades. However, current meta is like to go 7-8 Nightblades in a group and just burst everything down. Like they will still do a lot of damage, but that's just like how I personally prefer it. You can go with 3 Bloodthirsty, it's up to you. You can go all infused if you want to, it's also fine. Damage difference is not really that high, but we don't have an execute on the Stamsorc. That's why I personally want to stick to 2 infused and 1 Bloodthirsty. For weapons, we have 2 Advanced Yukita daggers. 2 daggers will outperform every other weapon combination. But if you don't have a second dagger, you can go with 1 dagger and 1 axe. It also works. It's just a little bit less DPS. 2 infused with the poison glyph and with an absorb stamina glyph. The absorb stam glyph restores like 170 stamina per second on average, which is really nice. And then we have a maelstrom bow and infused with the berserker glyph. Now the berserker glyph also can be activated on cooldown from weapon abilities and like Endless Hail and Poison Injection, which is really nice. So much for the gear. Let's have a look at skills. So we use Crushing Weapon as our main spammable. You can replace it with Shrouded Daggers, which gives you a little bit more AoE damage, but it will be a tiny bit harder on your sustain. You can see it costs a little bit more, but it's not that big of a deal. So if you don't have Somerset, you can just go with Shrouded Daggers. Rending Slashes, Single Target Dot, Hurricane, Rearming Trap, Bound Armaments, and Flawless Stormbreaker for the extra weapon damage. On the back bar we use the Greater Storm Atro. What you can replace the Atro with is Ballista. In some fights you want to do that, for example 3rd boss in VHOF you want more burst, so replace the Ballista. Replace Storm Atro with the Ballista. The Storm Atro, however, can give Major Berserk to a player for 8 seconds and buff the damage by 25%, which is really nice. Then again Bound Armaments for extra stam also on the back bar. Razor Caltrops, Rearming Trap, Poison Injection, and Endless Hail for the Maelstrom Bow. For the CP, for red I just used the standard CP distribution. You can just hit pause. It's not like specialized for any trial. So you want to do that a little bit differently according to the content that you play. Usually I have some points into Sprinter. I just put 44 into Warlord. What I always do here on the Stamsorc, because we need to do some heavy attacks, is 75 into Mooncalf and 49 into Tenacity. And then Tumbling, Shadowboard and Warlord, I just mix it up and then usually put some points into Sprinter too, because we need to sprint a lot in Trials between boss fights and between Trash. For the blue tree, we currently have 22 into Piercing. The minimum amount you want to have, if you have every possible debuff, like Minor Fracture, Minor Breach, Infused Torx Pack, Crusher Glyphs, Alkosh, is 17 points. They took away the 100 base penetration. I usually prefer to have some more points into Pen, because on Trash fights you cannot debuff every single enemy. It's just not possible. That's why having some more penetration will make the Trash fights shorter. However, if you play Trials where you do not really have a lot of Trash, you can just like go to the bare minimum of 17 if you have all the debuffs in your group. Then we have 56 into Mighty, 61 Precise Strikes, 56 Thaumaturge, 66 Mastered Arms, and 9 into Physical Weapon Expert to unlock the Butcher passive, which gives us additional damage on all light attacks if the enemy is in execute range. That's pretty much it, guys. So if you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and if you don't want to miss any more ESO content, hit the sub button. If you want a more in-depth look into the class, look out for the class guide. I will try to upload them as soon as possible. If they're already uploaded, they'll be linked in the video description and in the comment section too. I hope you tune in next time, guys. Until then, bye bye.